Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you on match day, the first game of 2020 for Arsenal in action against West Brom tonight in the Premier League. I will be heading up there, just looking out the window now. I can only imagine how cold it is going to be, but I will be there all wrapped up as warm as possible, trying to bring you all the news and action as it happens, as hopefully, fingers crossed, Arsenal get their 2021 calendar year off to a win, which would be a third successive league victory for Mikel Arteta's side, and would certainly have the table looking an awful lot nicer than it did just before Christmas after that defeat at Everton. I will talk about that game a little bit further on in this video. Look at the team news, look at some of the big main two decisions that Mikel's got to make ahead of that, give my predicted 11. But first, just wanted to talk a couple of little bits that Mikel Arteta has had to say when speaking to us in his press conference. They were embargoed, so what he said couldn't get released until 10:30 last night. I've already put a piece out on Goal. I'll drop that in the description below. It's him talking about Mesut Ozil's situation, cancelling contracts, and just a little bit about what he wants in the transfer window, but he wants something done quickly and how getting things done quickly will help in the long term. So about Mesut Ozil, basically, the question was asked again, can you bring Mesut Ozil back? Will you bring Mesut Ozil back for the second half of the season? His response was, we'll see what happens in the transfer window and we will assess that at the end. So, not giving too much away, hedging his bets a little bit, but I think it's certainly, it's not beyond the realms of possibility. I don't think it'll happen, but it's not beyond the realms of possibility that Ozil comes back. Arsenal have already got rid of Lacazette in this window. They're going to try and get rid of more players as well. We know that, if they manage to do that and the places open up on the squad, then, and Mesut's still here, then surely he does get included. It kind of all comes down to the maths, really, and how many players Arsenal can get out on the door. And we all know that is Arsenal's priority. Like I said, Lacazette has started. You're looking at players like Mustafi, possibly Socrates, although he's not registered, so that won't make much of an impact if he does go. Callum Chambers, William Saliba, again, it's a little bit different because of his age. But those sort of players, if Arsenal can get rid of some of them and some places do free up on the squad, then there's a chance Mesut Ozil can come back. But it all depends on what happens in the transfer window, and that's what Mikel Arteta is talking about there. And it's also, the possibility of Arsenal adding a creative midfielder as well. If that does happen, we know about the links to Isco. If that does happen, then you think that Mesut Ozil is going to be further behind in the queue and he won't make it. So a lot of it all does depend on what happens in the next 4 weeks, whether we see Mesut Ozil play for Arsenal again or whether he has played his last ever game in the red and white. He was also talked about cancelling players' contracts in regard to Ozil and Socrates as well. I think it's probably more likely if this was to happen in this window, it would happen with Socrates rather than Ozil. I can't see that happening with Ozil. He'll either come back into the squad or he'll remain until the end of the season and leave on a free transfer. Socrates, so there is a chance, I think, if the two parties can agree to it and Socrates gets himself a good move lined up, then possibly there will be something worked out where his contract could be paid up early and he could leave right now. Mikel was asked about that and he said you have to respect the players' contracts. What you can do is try to be open and honest with them and tell them about your intentions, the role they have in the team and why that is. At the end, they are entitled to make the decision in their lives because they have a contract here. And some would like to move on because they are not playing and some would like to stay. At the end, that is something we cannot decide. Fair decent comments from Mikel Arteta there. And he's right, I spoke about it in yesterday's video. I think that a lot of people having a go at Ozil and Socrates as well, especially given Lacazette has agreed to go out. He's taken a wage cut to go and play for Schalke, and a lot of people will be getting on Ozil's and Lacazette's back, Ozil's and Socrates' back. But I don't think that's really fair because they were given a contract by Arsenal, and Arsenal have to honour that contract. It's as plain and simple as that. So if the players don't want to go, you can't force them out the door because you were happy enough to give them the contracts in the first place. So you can't suddenly go kicking and screaming, try to get them out if they don't want to leave. And given the nature of the world at the moment, the uncertainty of it all, given the lack of finances in football, you can't blame a player for rushing to make a decision now when he knows he's got the guarantee of 6 months more decent pay coming from a club who gave him that contract not too long ago. So I fully understand what Mikel Arteta is saying there, and I respect what he's having to say as well, because I think it's I think he's spot on, and that you have to respect the contracts of both Ozil and Socrates. Right, let's turn our attention to tonight's game. Big game for Arsenal. Honestly, I'm dreading it. I hate the fact that West Brom lost 5-0 the other day because I think it's going to make it even worse. I was dreading it anyway because of it, the fact it was Allardyce, and you kind of know exactly what's going to happen. They're going to frustrate Arsenal. They're going to sit back pack the defence and try and frustrate Arsenal. Fortunately, they did that. Tried that against Leeds and it came completely unstuck. But Leeds got an awful lot of luck, certainly at the start when it was 0-0 with the own goal. That West Brom lost their heads after that. You can't imagine that's going to happen today. And in fact, the fact they got spanked so heavily the other day is going to make it even worse. They're going to just sit in and be determined that something like that's not going to happen again. So I can already see what type of game this is going to be. It's going to be one of patience and Arsenal just knocking on the door, trying to find a way through all at the same time, trying not to make a mistake and conceding at the back from a set piece or something like that. So yeah, I'm not looking forward to this one. I don't think it's going to be a pretty spectacle at all. But it's just one of those games that you've got to win. You've got to come back from it, get the 3 points, come back and sod the performance. Just make sure you get the victory. I think there's a couple of really big decisions that Mikel has to make in this one. The Lacazette decision is very, very important. Obviously, he got left out at Brighton. Aubameyang came back. Mikel Arteta said afterwards that Lacazette had a sore back and that's why he couldn't start. Lacazette obviously played very well against Chelsea. He came on against Brighton and scored his goal, scored the winner. Aubameyang missed a couple of decent chances in that. So the big decision now is, what do you do about that front line? Do you stick with Aubameyang? Do you stick with your captain and play him, or do you bring the guy back in who's now scored 3 goals in his last 3 games and is Arsenal's top scorer this season? So it's a really big decision for Mikel to make, because I don't want to see Aubameyang out on the left. I want the 3 forwards behind the central striker to stay the same. I want it to be Saka, Smith Rowe, Martinelli. I know they played a lot of minutes recently, but they've got a whole week of rest after this game. I think you brought off Martinelli as well against Brighton, so I think he should be fine. Saka, I know he got the injury, but he's fine as well. He's fine, and that boy's shown he's got the stamina to play a lot of games. Smith Rowe may be the one where you think, he's not played much football recently. He's started 2 games. Is it the time to take him out? I hope he can get an hour and start. So I want to see that 3 stay the same. It's that forward line, the central striker, that's going to be the big decision. Do you play Aubameyang? Do you play Lacazette? Personally, I still think I go with Aubameyang. I know a lot of you are probably going to disagree with that at the moment, but I do think I'd stick with Orba for this one. And have Lacazette as the option off the bench once again. But tell me what you think about that. Let me know in the comments below. Should you start Aubameyang? Should you start Lacazette? Who would you go for if you were Mikel Arteta? But that is certainly one of the big decisions he's got to make. And then there's also the midfield position. El Neni has started week in, week out alongside Xhaka recently. I think it's time to give El Neni a break. For me, I'd bring in Ceballos for this one. I think, especially given Arsenal are going to have an awful lot of the ball. I think you have that little bit of extra guile perhaps with Ceballos than you would with El Neni for that one. I thought El Neni was really poor against Brighton. I didn't think he was great against Chelsea either, certainly in the first half. And I just think I'd be going with Ceballos alongside Xhaka in this one to try and unlock what's going to be a very, very compact West Brom defence. I think those are the 2 really big decisions that facing Mikel Arteta ahead of tonight's game. What you do with a central striker and what do you do in central midfield. Other than that, I think you go with what you've got. You don't change a winning team. You found this formula. You found this formula that started winning. You don't change it. Like I said, you've got a whole week now, and the next game's the FA Cup as well, so you're going to make changes in that one. So I think you just try and get this team that has found a way to win recently. You try and get them through one more game before then giving them the rest that probably most of them need. Thomas Partey, obviously we saw him training yesterday. He's tweeted pictures of it saying, welcome back to 2021. Brilliant news that Thomas Partey is close to return. From what I understand, he's not going to be involved today. That was never going to be the case there. Arsenal are making sure that they're managing this very, very carefully. They don't want to repeat what happened last time when he came back against Spurs, clearly too early, and aggravated the injury again. I think you're looking at the Newcastle game in the FA Cup as a far more likelier option for Thomas Partey to start for the first time. But it's fantastic news. It's great to see him there, and I just think you add Thomas Partey into this Arsenal team and it makes such a big difference. Already there's a difference. We're seeing that with a more energetic and mobile front 3 behind the strikers of the 3 youngsters. We saw that certainly in the second half against Brighton when they were very, very good, and we certainly saw it against Chelsea as well. But suddenly you add Thomas Partey into that mix as one of the central midfielders as well, with his runs forward, the way he links the midfield and the attack as well. I think suddenly you're looking at a very more dynamic Arsenal team than the one you've seen so far this season, and it's a much more exciting prospect as well. So can't wait to see Thomas Partey back in action. It's that cliche. I think I said this yesterday. It's a cliche of like the new January signing. You hate saying it. Wenger used to say it. Used to get grief for it all the time. But considering we waited all summer to get him in, and then he's been injured ever since. It is genuinely going to feel like a new signing when he comes in and actually starts getting a proper run in the side, and we see him regularly lining up in the Arsenal central midfield. So can't wait to see that, and it's not too far away now. So the rest of the team news ahead of tonight's game. Good news on Bukayo Saka. He's obviously been passed fit to play by the Arsenal medical staff after that little knock he took against Brighton last time out. Willian and Louise are back. I know that hasn't gone down too well on social media. I really hope Willian doesn't come straight back into starting 11. I'm not sure I can face the meltdown if that was to happen. But he is back available after illness. So too is David Luiz. Those two are back. No Gabriel still. He's still isolating. Looks like this will be the last game he misses until he can return to full-time training, barring any complications with COVID or anything like that. But hopefully that will be the protocols followed and he will be able to come back as long as he's not suffering any too long effects with his battle with coronavirus. So good news for that. It's not too much longer to wait to see Gabriel, but he won't be available tonight. Nor will Thomas Partey, but David Luiz, Willian and Bukayo Saka will be. Right, let's have a quick look at my predicted 11 today. I'm not envisaging too many changes from the team that we've seen recently get back to winning ways. I'm going to go one change from the team that won at Brighton in midweek, and that's going to be in midfield. I'm going to say Ceballos coming in for El Neni, but other than that, I think Arteta will stick with what he went with at Brighton. So Leno in goal, a back four of Bellerin, Holding, Mari and Tierney. Then Xhaka and Ceballos will be my midfield pairing. Front three of Saka, Smith Rowe and Martinelli. And then I'm going to say Aubameyang keeping his place up top with Lacazette remaining on the bench. Let me know what you think the team might be. Drop them into the comments below. Like I said, I will be heading up to the Hawthorns tonight. Should be in place around 6:30, 6:45. As long as everything's up and running in time, I'll pop on and do my usual live team news reaction and warm-ups and things like that. So please do tune into the channel to have a watch of that. And then, yeah, as long as I get the time after the game, the usual player ratings and everything will follow. Thanks for watching, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day and wherever you're watching the game tonight around the world. Hope you enjoy it. Fingers crossed for 3 more points. Thanks for watching. Speak to you soon.